There are news stories that haunt reporters throughout our careers. Events so heinous that we will forever grapple with understanding them. For decades, a cassette tape has sat on my desk. A visual reminder of what happened in this apartment building in Richmond, California. On that tape, images of an unimaginable attack. The victim, a 1-month-old baby boy.
We believe the infant was kicked and punched.
Suffering severe brain damage, with the alleged attacker, a 6-year-old boy charged with attempted murder.
Do we just send him home and say, go and sin no more? I hope not.
The case grabbed national headlines as authorities grappled with the appropriate punishment.
It's grossly outrageous that he would characterize a 6-year-old boy as evil.
Nearly 30 years later, I'm seeking answers.
Hola, Nachito.
So I go searching for the victim and the accused.
Hey, Brandon. Leanne Melendez.
Seeing how lives have changed and others have moved on.
Is there anything to forgive?
Was justice served? It was April 1996. Police say an intruder broke into a home, severely beating a baby boy.
They came in the house, some kids, and they got the baby, and I don't know what happened.
An attack that stunned the nation.
The sister, the babysitter, 18-year-old, was left at home with the infant while the parents went to the store. Apparently, the sister left the infant in a bassinet in one of the bedrooms. Went to another part of the house. She came back, found the infant not in the bassinet as she had left it, but on the bed. We believe the infant was kicked and punched, and perhaps struck with a stick.
A shattered skull, brain damage. The child was hospitalized. Doctors did not know if Ignacio Bermudez would survive his injuries.
It would be very unlikely that the baby would have a full, complete recovery and be completely normal in the future.
Outside the hospital, his parents wept. That's when I first met Ignacio and Carmen Bermudez.
Do you feel any bad feelings towards these kids?
Pues yo sí, porque
I do.
no tenía ningún derecho.
If they went in to steal, they should have stolen something. But they shouldn't have beaten my baby because my son is small and innocent.
Que mi niño es un niño inocente, chiquito.
They were struggling to comprehend how someone could beat a defenseless child.
Cuando uno le pega a alguien es porque tiene coraje con él, porque lo hizo enojar o porque le pegó.
When you hit someone, it's because you're angry at them, because they made you mad or they hit you. But in this case, there's no explanation why they beat him.
The Bermudez family left the hospital that evening distraught for their child. For the first time, they learned the age of the person accused of attacking their infant. The suspect was just 6 years old.
The 6-year-old finds the unattended 6-week-old in the bassinet and for an unknown reason removes the baby from the bassinet. The 6-year-old then injures this 6-week-old severely.
How could it happen to a little kid? And that's so sad.
The 6-year-old was identified as Brandon Tolliver. Police say he forced his way into the Bermudez home to steal a big-wheel tricycle. Police say he heard the baby crying. It was that short encounter that forever changed the lives of both families.
My heart really goes out to the Bermudez family, you know, and I'm really, it's a terrible tragedy, and I'm in disbelief.
Nosotros no sentimos nada de coraje con nadie.
We don't have any ill feelings against anyone.
In that moment of pain, the community asked for forgiveness, even from a mother whose baby's prognosis was not good.
We do know that the injuries were quite severe and the long-term impact is lifelong.
The 6-year-old became the youngest person in the U.S. ever charged with attempted murder. Though it is rare, felony assaults by children under the age of 10 are not unheard of. According to the California Department of Justice, 24 children under the age of 10 were charged with felony assault between 2017 and 2022. But that decision by the prosecution brought criticism and controversy.
You would have never done that to a white boy.
Oakland civil rights attorney John Burris was asked to represent the 6-year-old who was now housed in juvenile hall.
It can be very destructive in the long term for a person to become institutionalized and get used to 3 square meals, get used to the comfort levels that are there. And so I certainly want him out of here.
A battery of child psychologists eventually determined that Brandon Tolliver was not able to understand the assault charges against him or to assist his attorney in defending him. Therefore, the case could not go forward.
Does this kid fall through the crack? Do we just send him home and say, go and sin no more? I hope not.
Why are you so mad at this guy? Why do you want to hit him?
What followed was years of therapy while living in several group homes. The Bermudez family, meanwhile, was focused on their son, who was now close to being a year old, and who clearly showed signs of developmental delay.
Just loss of brain tissue. There is no brain tissue there anymore.
His CT scan showed that once his brain tissue had died, it could not regenerate. As a result, Ignacio Bermudez was not able to push himself up or to make eye contact with the people around him. In fact, he often had seizures, causing his head to suddenly drop.
What's the matter, big guy?
After that day, when I checked on his progress a year after the attack, that was the last time I saw Ignacio and his family. Until a few months ago, when we found them living in Reno, Nevada.
Aquí estamos otra vez contigo.
So much had changed in their lives, yet everything felt familiar. Their sense of gratitude and appreciation for what they have.
What do you remember from that period?
The conversation around that infamous day in 1996 was unavoidable.
Mi niñito estaba en su camita acostadito. ¿Quién iba a pensar que le iba a pasar algo a él?
My son was in his bed. Who would have thought something would happen to him?
For the first time, the family told me another child witnessed the attack. A friend of the family named Sandra had followed Brandon into the room and supposedly witnessed the attack.
And tell me again what Sandra told you that he had done.
Que lo agarró el Moisés, lo tumbó al suelo.
Tumbó al niño.
Y luego agarró un palo de la escoba.
Le pegó en la cabeza.
Le pegó en la cabeza.
His demonstration needs no translation, as he showed us what they were told happened after the baby was thrown on the floor.
Pues me sorprendí por como miré a mi niño.
Carmen Bermudez told us even more painful was seeing the baby's injuries.
Y con su cabeza así.
His head was like this.
Que parecía que le iba a explotar su carita.
I thought it was going to explode. His face was so swollen.
¿Por qué?
¿Por qué a mi niño?
Why, your baby?
No explica nada. ¿Por qué nos explicamos por qué?
It's a constant question. Why would anybody hurt a baby?
Será una penitencia que Dios nos dio. ¿Quién sabe?
Maybe it's a punishment from God. Who knows?
The conversation then shifted from what was to what is. which of course includes their 4 children. And yes, Ignacio, who was peeking out of the kitchen during our interview. Now 27 years old, Ignacio rocks side to side and is in constant motion. He's unable to speak or show any kind of independence, but the family says the mere fact that he's able to walk is a blessing.
Hola.
Te habla, Nico.
Nachito. Hola, Nachito.
He quickly shies away and eventually resumes his rocking.
What can he do? What can't he do?
Lo bañamos, le cambiamos pañal.
We bathe him. We change his diaper.
Él tira toda la comida.
I follow him around to feed him in the mouth
Toma agüita.
because
¿No quieres?
he can't eat on his own.
Ven, más. Más, hijo. Toma, más. ¿Ya no quieres? ¿No quieres comer?
Yeah, it's tough.
Their youngest son, Antonio, weighed in.
The care for him is 24 hours. It doesn't stop. You know, you don't get a break from that. That's full time. That's 24/7. So it puts a burden on everybody for sure.
Ignacio himself struggles, often hitting himself or stomping on the floor so furiously that he has broken several tiles.
Más.
It's common for people with severe brain injuries to suffer from insomnia. In fact, the family told us Ignacio has gone up to 2 weeks without sleeping, which puts a huge strain on everyone.
All of these holes are actually made by him. When he has those sleepless nights, when he can't sleep, he'll just kind of hit it with his hand or he'll kind of go with his body.
We got this plastic bag here so he doesn't open it. So we usually just tie it at the end of the night when we're all going to sleep. Just tie it up like that. That way he can't get into it. Because if he sees it open, he'll get into it.
Yet despite those trying moments, Ignacio's parents have found the capacity to forgive.
Nosotros lo perdonamos y así está bien.
We forgive him, and that's the end of it.
The conversation around who will take care of Ignacio when his parents can no longer do so has fallen on his siblings.
I'm like, my brothers are all gonna marry. They're gonna have their wife.
Carmelita, his sister, was just a toddler when Ignacio was attacked.
And so I've told my mom multiple times, when you and my dad are no longer here, I will take care for my brother.
I've committed to it, and I've told myself, and I told myself that if I ever do marry, that the person that I do marry with is gonna have to accept him as a son. And if they don't, then they can go ahead and leave because my brother's here to stay.
One night when Ignacio was having a difficult time, Antonio decided to look up the name Brandon Tolliver on Facebook.
When he stumbled upon his Facebook and he sent it to me, us being older, yes, we did have anger. We had anger and we just kind of saw his pictures and we saw he has a family. He has kids. He has a normal life.
And your brother doesn't have a normal life.
And my brother doesn't have a normal life. My brother will never marry. My brother will never have kids.
My parents might say that they forgive him, but I feel like I can speak for maybe just the brothers, us 3 brothers. We don't. There's no forgiveness for that. You know, you ruined a life. My brother was born a normal kid, and now he can't live the life that he was born to live.
And yes, I would love to be able to talk to him and ask him what went through your head at the moment. And who knows, maybe that's part of something of his life that he blocked out and he doesn't remember.
Brandon Tolliver was that 6-year-old child accused of beating Ignacio Bermudez in 1996. We thought long and hard about reaching out to Brandon Tolliver. What was there to gain after all these years? But in fairness to Brandon, we offered him a chance to be heard.
Hey, Brandon. Leanne Melendez. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Hey, Brandon. Leanne Melendez. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
We sat down with him at his mother's house in Stockton. He's now 34 years old and has 2 children.
I have a good life. I have kids. I work.
Let's go back a little bit to 6 years old. It's hard to imagine that you can remember that day, but why don't you try?
I don't know, it was a normal day.
He candidly admitted wanting to ride a big-wheel tricycle that belonged to one of the Bermudez kids when he entered the home.
Went up a little more of the stairs. There was like about 3 flights of stairs. So I kept on going up. And when I got to the landing, in the back of the apartment, in like a washroom, I saw the big wheel. So my mind switched from asking for it to, oh, I'm gonna just go borrow it, right? So,
take it.
Yeah, take it, basically. Yeah, so I started going towards the big wheel, and I heard a baby crying, right? So when I heard the baby crying, I got panicked. You know, I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna get caught in here, right?
What he says happened next varies from what police say happened.
So I go into the room where the baby is, and I don't know why, but my 6-year-old mind said it's crying in the crib, right, the bassinet. So if I put it on the bed, maybe it'll stop crying. So I did that, grabbed the baby, put it in the bed, and then right after that, I heard footsteps coming up the stairs.
Brandon told us he then ran past the babysitter and out the front door.
Do you remember harming the baby?
No, not at all.
Do you remember hitting the baby?
No.
Do you remember dropping the baby on the ground?
No.
On the floor?
No.
Do you remember hitting the baby with a stick?
Never hit the baby with a stick. I only had a stick because me and my friends were playing sword fight.
So how did the baby have all these injuries?
That's a mystery to me. I don't know. I do not know.
Or maybe you don't remember?
No, I know that I didn't do, you know, what I was accused of doing.
We have me and him, you know, he's standing. This is one time, he's in his mother's arms, he falls asleep in the courtroom. He's sitting next to me.
John Burris, Brandon's former attorney, still saves the courtroom sketches of the proceedings. Brandon spent long days in juvenile court, often coloring or reading picture books.
He was a 6-year-old boy. And I'll tell you, I brought toys, because I had a 7-year-old, or 6 at the time, so I brought my son's toys to the courtroom so that he could play with them.
Both lawyers involved, the defense attorney and the prosecutor, recently reflected on the case.
I looked at his conduct before, during, and immediately after, and came to the clear conclusion that he knew that what he was doing was wrong at the time he did it.
It didn't matter what he had done. The question was he competent? And my view was, no, he was not.
What followed was years of group homes and foster care. At the age of 18, Brandon was finally able to live with his mom. But admittedly, his problems didn't end there. In his 20s, he was arrested for attempted robbery, then later for evading an officer while driving recklessly and carrying a firearm, for which he spent time in prison.
I believe I was always a good person, but I made bad choices, definitely.
What made you change, though? And be the person you are today?
What made me change is punishment. It was punishment, and then also being tired of going through that and knowing deep inside, like, I'm not this person, I'm not this person, I'm not this person, I'm not this type of person.
I know that probably no matter what you say, it won't change the minds of the Bermudez family, the kids, the mom, the father.
More than 2 decades after he was accused of beating 6-week-old Ignacio, I asked Brandon if there was anything he wanted to say to the Bermudez family.
I do feel bad for the injuries that the baby sustained, but it's hard to say sorry to them if I didn't do anything, you know?
Unfortunately, the young man, he can't bathe himself, he doesn't speak, he doesn't eat on his own. He can walk, but here's what he does a lot.
We then offered to show him video of what became of Ignacio.
And that's because of brain damage?
Yeah, he suffered really, massive brain damage.
Yeah, that's messed up.
Is there anything to forgive?
I don't think there is, no. No.
Tragedy has a way of leaving impressions on people. Whether it's a reporter remembering an infant whose life was horribly, forever changed, or a family who struggles with a daily reminder of what happened nearly 3 decades ago. Even, it seems, for the person who's accused of committing a heinous act. After our interview with Brandon, he reflected on what he said to us and sent me a message to pass on to the Bermudez family. I am sorry for how your family has suffered, especially your son. Thank you for having the heart that you have. Time heals, but healing together is best.